my friends gone? Where have you gone? Did you ever care much for me?
Purple trees and stony rocks on rolling grassy hills. Puffy little satin bags are where I hide my pills. Struggling, holding you down and putting you away, because I know I'll need you on another day. Sleep, sleep, sleep from underneath my bed, and keep me darkest company all whirled up in my head. My mind is a flowery closet, and the wood is growing mold. I need a little sunshine before I get too old. Sleep, sleep, sleep in the corner of my room. I wish you could read to me and tell me stories of my doom. Grow, little trees from the floor and blossoms from the shade, and prepare to see the vision in my mind that I have made. Goodbye, 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 from my soul will you depart, after all your pills have made their way into my heart.
If I'm standing proud in a field full of chaos, how can I escape? If my pride is my death sentence, do I pull off and burn my clothes and burn my money and burn my mind and climb the highest marble staircase past the magnetosphere to leap to my freedom? Will you catch my naked burning body? Will you wipe the ashes and embers from my skin? Will you speak for me and tell my mother I'm okay? And after you make love to my body and my soul slips away, please don't leave me here. Take me to the healing, glowing passage tree in the terrible teal forest. Wrap me in branches and bark and blades of wheat and everything else. Pray for my soul to the healer in the healing tree. Beg her to pry my insides away from the third dimension and onto her perfect symmetry so I can live in the light of awareness forever.
Jesus and Joni are gonna visit and play checkers and drink gin and root beer with us all, and we can all stare at your paneling and jest at your stunningly appointed visuals and the dusty brass knuckles and your mountains of circles of emotion and shock and awe. Joni and Jesus always stayed too late, and we were grateful for it. So let's have toast to the most, and peace to some, and more to others, and rest for you now. Now we can all fall asleep together.
Your words are like swords, and my path is poisoned. I slipped into the morning dew, and I absorbed all of my reflections. My starlight is waning, and I'm afraid it's dying. My starlight through the cold air is flying and flying, and you can't see any of it, but I can see my own breath. The starlight is mapping my view, carving valleys of quartz and rivers of fire. I can hear my heart walking with me through the dusky forest, and I feel the caressing leaves caressing me. Slowly I walk through a scattered, fiery blue tunnel of moonlight, counting every beam and every shadow, and the tree roots groan with passion as I step over them on my way toward the moon. Fussy and glowing warm, covering everything with life. Watching the moon warming me, leading me around the trees and onto the hilly, grassy earth. And if darkness is a field, I am the scarecrow.
Only transparent lines of frequency crossed my visual spectrum, distorting everything around me, at least from my point of view. Any peripheral noises in my house seemed muted, deadened, and eventually silent. Only a dusty green mist floated above me, which could have been a residual effect from my prior soul's life. Only this haze distracted me from those curly shapes floating like cotton balls from left to right, then right to left across my face, and the threads never touched me. I could see the far wall of my bedroom through them. I tried to touch them, but they always moved away like squirrels, like scared squirrels. I could feel a tingling like pins and needles throughout the left side of my body, getting less intense by the second. I turned over, hoping the weight of my frame would increase the tingling, because I liked it. It did not. I suddenly started thinking about water and how much I hated it. How I didn't want to touch anything wet or bright white or lit up. That it would cause me searing pain if I did. The thought of everything being bright white and wet and lit up, and me being swallowed up by it would surely, at least in my mind, cause my body to melt into a wet, runny batter. This, I knew, was a certainty. Glancing up to see if the green mist was still shining on me, it was, but now turned to more of a bluish mist or cloud, which is a bit unnerving because typically I don't see anything floating above me. The mist was gone. My eyes, and none other but my eyes, they suddenly release, and now my mind is free. Open, windy and dry, windows open, cornfields in view, dancing from the wind, as if they are celebrating your liberation with you. I want to skip ahead to my future like a smooth stone on a lake. When I say my future, I'm not talking about 10 years out. No, for me, just about 2 hours should be about the time I lose consciousness. I could call a hospital, but where's the fun in that? All they, the doctors and the nurses, would do is lecture me on the cons of killing myself. But what do they know? They're hypocrites, drowning in a sea of caustic gauze and plastic containers and colorful painkillers. They're the ones with a death wish, not me. I don't want to die, but the threat of dying in a couple hours made me feel alive. Maybe I need a plan in case things get out of hand, and with a clear, windy autumn brain, that's what I wanted. I felt the same bunch of excitement that someone feels when they're about to eat the best meal ever or meet the coolest person ever. That wondrous, awesome, good anxiety. When I drove up the on-ramp to the South Freeway, it was dusk. The billboard lights were starting to light up. Headlights were turning on all around me. It was like Christmas. My car radio didn't work, and one would think, at a time like this, I would want a soundtrack to this event. But I didn't need one, not from the radio anyways. I could hear a symphony all around me, singing to me in pitches and hues more beautiful than I have ever heard. The engine humming a soothing background to the wind noise. Then there's the road sound, the tires playing the pavement like a musician would strike a violin. All this punctuated by the ebb and flow of the sound of oncoming traffic. I didn't need to play music. I was engulfed in it. The dashing yellow and white lines on the road provided a rhythm so cerebral that I felt as if my mind was directly plugged into everything around me. Hot coffee kept me alive, kept me jazzed, always wondering what was next. Telling, told. I told everyone I saw they could touch the hem of my robe and feed off of me if they desired. I could feel the electrical cord plugged into their brains, feeding off of mine. I took a gulp of my coffee. This impressed them. If I could have, I would have cracked open my skull and poured the hot coffee directly onto my brain, as that would have surely impressed anyone. I repeated this meet and greet over and over again, welcoming drivers and passengers alike to hug me and hug my mind, and they did, over and over again. Some of them even high-fived my brain. That was intense. Driving, driven, drove. Now focused and driving south, always south, I peered up at the now exquisitely pitch-black sky, bursting with little flashlights. I rolled the driver's window down further, turning up the volume on my roadway symphony. I curved my head out the window to get a clear look at the stars. I was so high on coffee that I could have counted every star in the sky and still had time for a smoke break. Now I have nothing but time. The fun is over. I'm going to be alive tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. What a bunch of crap. Now I'm just some loser, just like yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. Why did tonight feel so special? My thermos and my gas tank were both piping hot and half full. The night was still there in front of me, and even the stars weren't done with me yet, as they needed to be counted, and I needed them to light my way. I felt like a small sun was heating my body from within the car. No light, just heat, and all the people in the street were planets, and I was a comet, racing away to another orbit. Clearly this had to be the reason. My car was a spaceship, my rocket fuel, my thermos. The roadway symphony started blaring into my ears and into my eyes again. I was driving fast now. I was in a rush. I knew the direction to go, and I knew I would meet someone at my destination, the tulip nymph. The interior of my car was a green, rotting mist, then blue syrup. Then I lit up like a star, filling the inside of my car with a vibrant white light, and my mind opened. It was dry, open, windswept in autumn, and full of electricity. My handkerchief was a message. Just as sure as I knew there'd be something to read on it, there was. The grime from my face formed a pentact on the cloth, and an arrow circling it. That arrow was me. It was at that moment that I knew I could do anything in the world. Nothing in sight except lighted billboards telling me how to spend my money, and seeing saw, and far away refracted light from the next town. I finished off the last of my coffee and started walking into the desert. Once again, I felt like I had all the time in the world. So I started counting every star in the sky, and I finished before dawn.
Follow close so no one gets left behind. Dream, if you will, with me, and stream down onto the astral waterfall so I can float with you and find you and bring you back home. I froze my body in a cold trance. My wax peeled away, my skin, my flesh, until only my soul remained, and without warning I was covered by an ocean of fireflies, thousands of them. They hummed and bonded to me, and bonded to my soul, and lifted me up to the moon. I passed people I knew, and cats I've loved, and orange radios I've lost. They all remembered me, but I floated past them all, past the flickering drifting space lights and porous nebulas, and glowing rivers of charged particles, particularly strange, definitely beautiful. Angels and shadow people caressed me and wrapped themselves around me, and they wept with me about you. They too knew your friends and those who loved you, and they grieve at the waste of genius, the utter waste of genius. And after the fireflies landed me on the gravely moon, they dispersed, they reversed, and faded away. Lying on the dust of the moon, I asked God to show me your soul, and he laughed. God laughed at me and staggered away. He hated me. He loved me. He wanted me to kill him. And I pushed him away. I pushed her away.
He lost his mind in the twilight that showed through the window when Johnny cried. He lost his mind in the twilight that showed through the window when Johnny cried.
Help. Helping. Helper, crushing through the splintery doorway. I can't escape this terrible trail that I've carved. Every right turn only traps me more tightly. Nothing illuminating in my mind except the flame of my own selfishness. My life is suffocating me all at once. Help me, helping me, helped me. I'm solid in a dark room. I can barely move. The air is dark and smoky, and I can't see anything except 16 corners. And I also see me. I see me in the room, but I'm born and dying, and the room is flooded with time. I can watch from a short distance in empathy, but then I rest and sleep and dream. Dream, dreaming, dreamer, dreamt. I can smell wine barrels rotting in the barn and rusty beams of iron encircling a body. Somebody.
Always watching.
I spy with my inner eye, my consciousness, the one hovering between the serpent and the rainbow, the one sitting lotus style under the orange creamsicle sky in the middle of the night, and it's still glowing, giving me a spiritual tan. How tantalizing. It's the 4th of July. Always, every night, without end, and the streets and green bridges of my mind are packed with seers and talkers and bloated bohemian bitches with their portable poodles and potent potables. They drape themselves in tightly woven untold lies and thicketed rooted robes, all showing off their faux regal stature. I hear with my ears the trotting sounds of lamenting lingerers and sour sojourners, zombie walking their way into the scented meat grinder. They throw themselves willingly into the gears. It's been real, it's been fun, but now they are done. I feel everything. I feel you. Do you feel me? No, of course you don't. You are truly a busy soul, and I'm sorry that I haven't pulled the knife from your chest, but honestly, I just haven't found the time. Now I feel responsible for all this, but you wanted it this way, but now look at you, you were wrong. My God is a drunk God, and you were wrong. Don't worry, don't rush. This world will end, and it's a blessing, but no need to rush. No need to take the bullet train out of town. I cannot deal with the torturous aisles and highway miles and death and decay without you. Where have all my friends gone? Where have you gone? Did you ever care much for me? I know you are always out there in the pointed sandy trenches and stringing the Christmas lights and finding time to find the air, to find the energy, to find yourself through those tough years. I just wish you would have let us in on your discovery instead of secreting it away and taking it with you. You were drowning in love, not misery. Couldn't you tell the difference? I think back to the gray and dark winter months and the concrete walls you gated up around you, only escaping when we jumped over to shortcut our way to every bar, any bar, to hook up and hook in and lament, and do it so damn well. It was a simpler time. It was a better world. We want that world back. We want you back. We want to suffocate in your aura. We want your soul back. And even if I have to pry into the shadow world to find it, I will. If you start to feel queasy, just relax. It's just me crossing over. I'm coming to get you. You needn't fear. You're not alone. You never were alone. I can't leave you on the other side. It's not right. I can do this. I can find you, for my God is surely a drunk God, so he won't even notice.
My eyes opened, and I woke still in the desert, pre-dawn. The sky was painted in 3 colors, black, blue, and red. All the stars were in the blackness, and of course I knew them all. There was nothing to guide me except just walking toward the noises I heard ahead, like industrial sounds, men working, building, or demolishing something. As I started walking toward the sound, the air became drier than even a desert should be. I could feel static charge shooting out from my ear and my shoulders. I guess that should have scared me, but it didn't. What did scare me was the sky, which horizon to horizon turned a pale blood red, chasing away the cooling blue and awe-filled starlit sky. There were no more stars, no more wind. I came upon a place that was strange to me, a rocky edge that seemed to be a mile-wide crater. And at the lower surface were trucks and bulldozers and loaders and workmen, all keeping busy, all speaking some kind of Slavic, like Russian. There were piles and piles of junk cars littering the outer rim of the crater. No one even acknowledged my presence. Workers with hard hats, flannel shirts, and steel-toed boots made their way past me, speaking Russian, streaming chrome, laughing from their faces. Spontaneously, I grabbed one of them by the arm and asked him where I was, demanding to know. He just blandly looked away, but he did show me his watch. A digital. It read 3:34 a.m. I assumed a.m. I looked around. They were piling junk cars everywhere, making small mountains out of them. Everyone seemed to be in good spirits, considering it was the middle of a red sky night and they were piling junk cars at the bottom of a huge crater. My body was spinning. The Russians, they were all dancing and shaking their fists at the sky. Suddenly, a distant bell chimed and the dancing worker bees buzzed away. After they left, I had synesthesia, and it tasted like moldy cement and stone and grit. I raced away. I started to feel tingling on the right side of my body, head to toe. I collapsed. Then everything went black, and I was gone. I woke up walking. The desert was gone. I was walking beneath the raping sun. Looking around, it was summer. Parks with merry-go-rounds and dandelions and red metal peeking up from the grass. Strangely, I didn't want any food. Like, even if a buffet were placed in front of me, I would leave it alone. I could smell, but I don't think I could taste. I couldn't even remember having eaten before, not one memory. The sun was high. It was midday. It was so warm. I was wearing my sweat when a trio of Pleiadian stalkers started waving to me from across the street like they knew me. I waved back, and as I did, my stomach felt warm, like the one who waved just telepathically fed me. They took me by the arm, all smiling, walking me around the corner. They were all sun-drenched, both by the sun and by their appearance. Their skin was natural and windswept. As we were walking, I felt so good inside, like their smiles were charging my batteries. They brought me to a gas station. Then around the corner, to the side of the building, there was nothing there except a red brick wall. I looked to them for a cue as to what to do. They started laying down with their feet against the brick wall, and they were all holding hands. They motioned me to join them, so I did. We clasped hands and smiled together. We were in tune. Every copper wire in our blood was sparking and spiking and glowing. I never felt so good in my life. We stared at each other while we were charging. That's what I called it. I think that's what we were doing. They smiled at me, ear to ear, and I smiled back. I loved them all like they were my brothers and sisters, sliding around like snakes, wanting to join with everything and everything with them. I looked up, gazed up. It was night now. The stars were beaming, and I felt overdosed with happiness. They understood and let me go. They released, and my hands felt numb. They felt alone. I wanted to hug God. I wanted to hug God with my brain. I waved goodbye to them. I waved goodbye with my brain. The sparks arched away from my head and flew onto their shoulders where they were absorbed. I needed to get back to the desert, the road, the tires turning. Could they help? I asked them. They nodded. Then they poured a red and purple molten soup onto the road in front of me. It had screws and nuts in it and dirt, but the flow started from their shoulders. I knew it. This was their way of brainstorming. All the possibilities they gave me could have taken 1,000 lifetimes and 1,000,000 bodies to fulfill. But instead, I just told them with my mind that I need to get back to my car. And they understood. The soup stopped flowing. In fact, it dried up. They seemed sad that it did. Perhaps I asked too much. I'll never know. But once the soup dried, they started rolling together on the ground in symmetry with each other, smiling and humming at the top of their lungs, and staring at me with a hysterical focus I cannot fully describe. Their hands interlocked. They were forming a circuit to store and then release their energy onto me. This wasn't sadness. This wasn't goodbye. It was their transport for me. Not only were they humming, but the sky started screaming, all muttering in high-pitched pleads. Even the clouds raced away like frightened cats. Then the blue sky retreated, and I was overtaken with a deep, somber redness and dusty dark blueness, and stars, 1,000,000 stars, far and fresh and hung just for me. I looked back down, and all I saw was sand, but my car was nowhere to be found. Instead, I saw 16 red steel beams shooting out from the desert floor. They were arranged in a circle, of course, just with enough room for me to fit through. I slid through, I slunk through, as if forces were watching me, and all the while not knowing where they would take me next. As soon as I reached the center of the circle, the ground felt solid. I felt a buzzing like a malfunctioning fluorescent bulb. Everything around me, including me, was adorned with an electric blue aura. The buzzing got louder and invaded my mind. It awoke sleeping strangers and tightened my inner nerves. Bright, brighter, clear brightness. The beams were glowing, clear, then red, then syrup blue, then clear again, and a little yellow. I began to hear numbers in my mind, numbers, letters, over and over again. Something sounded familiar, and then I remembered why, and God hugged me.
Yeah! 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 Yeah!
I slept a day, then a night, and then I begged to visit the other side of the moon, the other side of reality. And God smiled and opened a path of radiant light, diamonds shining, making the path on the moon glow. And I followed it. And I followed it into a rocky cave of teeth and poison. Then a tunnel of deep blue and sharp ice. I wandered for what seemed like forever. Lost in the tunnels of the moon, I am alive. I feel everything. The tunnels connect me with every soul, alive and dead, and I was thrust into a crowded room, a party, Christmas lights hanging, everyone breathing smoke and carbon and glass. Everyone kept pushing and shoving and hugging me with their arms and screaming at me with their faces, their mouths on fire, their smiling grins dragging across my face like chalk. And then my brain folded in on itself, or so it felt, and I collapsed, and the party raged on all around me, and my soul dissolved and scattered into the air, where everyone breathed me in, and they choked on me, their luxurious hands grasping their throats as I leaked out of their mouths and onto the floor. Then eternity looked me in the face, and for a moment I was everywhere, doing everything, but only for a moment. Then the party was over. Then love touched my soul, my life force. I blacked out. I found myself lying in a field of juniper and golden seal and golden zeal under a tweed sky. Finding, found. I found you in that field, strolling across some old railroad tracks, and the rust from the beams flew up and clung to you, and you embraced it and slunk along and scurried down to the grass and made snow angels out of the dust of life and rust of death and the bark and blood of this dimension. And it was surreal, and at the same time I had to look away. I could only see your resolutions, your confirmations, your footnotes, and your hastily planned escape plan. You smiled. You seemed happy, finally letting the light in. You asked me to make snow angels with you, so I did. And our arms passed each other as we outlined our wings, always coming close but never touching. but I had to connect to you, to reach you, to rescue you. I couldn't wait another second, so without warning, I reached and grasped your hand, ice cold, and I was warning you. And the sun screamed, and the air froze into an infinite number of cubes, and you looked at me with horror, your eyes longing and your mouth quivering. Finally, you're scared. Why weren't you scared before? Why didn't you scare us more? Why couldn't you just stay? We stayed locked together for a moment, but then our circuit tripped, and our planes rumbled away from each other. I felt your hand still, but I couldn't see you, but I could feel you. And I find myself back in my body, back on Earth, back from the moon, and slowly slipping out of my trance. Just then it started raining, and the drops tasted like the ocean, like tears, like you missed us. And the rain was a hello from another plane of existence, the only hello that we're allowed. We'll take it. We'll take anything from you, and we'll absorb it into us, and make clocks and alarms and shakers and buzzers and bright lamps out of our memories of you.
I see you, but you can't see me. Little firefly flying through the sky, over the rusty fence, and into a garden in my backyard. Light up the world, little firefly, and play with the air, and swish and dart around. I can see you, and I'll stay here with you. It's getting cold, and I'll watch over you until the dawn lights turn on. Then where will you go? Will you find a warm leaf and pull it over you to keep you safe and sleep the day away? Will you change into a fountain and give water to all your friends? I hope you stay alive until tomorrow night, and the night after, and after. I wonder how long you can stay here. Do you see me? I'd like to be your friend. I wish we could be friends. I would let you rest on my arm, and you could look up at me and see me. Are you friends with the ladybugs and the grasshoppers? If you get lonely, say hi to me. I'll be here all night, little firefly.
Bubbles, slimy bubbles joining and merging with one another in a sick, grotesque way. Then the smell of copper and iron filled my mouth. Then the bubbles began to merge with me. I was surrounded. Not bubbles of soap or ash, but of triangles. I can't explain it, but they were triangles, three-dimensional, like a pyramid, but with only three corners, like a tetrahedron. They were digging into me like grains of sand, pressing through my pores. All this, the lights, the bright beaming beams, they kept buzzing. I couldn't take it anymore. I dropped to the ground and cried out. And then all at once my cry echoed alone. I crouched and cried and screamed more, even though it all stopped. It was total silence for a moment. Then there was room for ambiance to welcome its way back in, and I did welcome it. My mind was clear once again. The barn doors opened. Everything was clear and windy and dry. No water, no glowing yellow hallways, no coldness. I lifted my head and saw concrete. 16 red steel beams on asphalt. 16 beams arranged in a circle again, and I was standing in the middle. All the beams were red, shiny, and I ran from the beams, and the circuit was complete. I ran for miles, past cities, past towns, past glowing skies of spinning circles and wheels and ropes of copper and wicker and groups of solemn watchers solemnly watching me. I ran 1,000,000 miles, or so it felt. I ran past the fourth dimension and back to the third. Time stretched, then snapped back, and my feet never touched the ground. I need to find the tulip nymph. But I found myself back on the highway again instead, a full tank of gas and a full thermos of coffee. Still heading south, black ash started snowing all around me, and the sun was fractured forever. Ash is snowing all around me. Do you see the sun? It's sick and fractured. The city is burning. The mall is destroyed, a new home to the new surfers. They burn long, angry fires and tires and pile old, rusty cement and crumbs of their lives and defend their families within the gutted frame. The air is thick with dust and orbs and light peeking around the red metal. Walking through the corridors of the mall, I see the rubble, and I smell the bonfires, and I see the poor and dying people huddled for warmth. I cannot save them now. I need to find the tulip nymph. In a dark space minded with smoke and mirrors just past the fountain of joy, the empty fountain, I see her, the tulip nymph in all her glory. She is bruised and stunned, but I can save her. I will save her soul. I carefully hold her fragile, pale, naked body in my hands, thin, longing, gazing at her, gazing at me. My eyes and my senses are invaded. Euphoria is in my hands. Dew and ash are holding onto her, but her eyes are waxing warm and bright. Clutching her soft frame, we escape the mall, the war, the crumbling walls of indifference. We escape through the path of rotting blackberry vines all the way to the rainbow garden. There, in the garden, we rest under the healing, glowing passage tree. We join and we love, and I make love to her body, and she makes love to mine. Because she deserves it, and so do I.
In my spare time, I build and supply comets to this and several other star systems. Comets are made up of ice and dirt and nuts and bolts, don't you know? They weigh about the size of a small house, if that house had iron radiators and a cement foundation. If that house had a one-car garage and a finished basement with a fireplace. Yes, that's about the weight of a comet. Comets are made in the Pleiades system and are sent out everywhere in the universe for decoration. And because we all need a little dirty ice sometimes, they are constructed in large wooden warehouses on the largest planet orbiting Tegeta. Making comets is a messy business and not very profitable, and so the ice water that is trucked in from that planet's moon must be dehydrated to reduce the cost of transport. Morphine is used for this purpose. Once the ice water makes it to the warehouse, it is stored in one of a series of tanker fields where it waits to be reconstituted before being pumped into the comet extruder. The inhabitants of the planet are very nervous coffee drinkers and very critical and suspicious of celestial manufacturing. And so they are often seen spying through the factory windows to watch the comets as they are being fabricated. They are pacified by drinking the morphine-laced ice water which they siphon off from storage tanks. In fact, it is not uncommon to see roaming mobs of morphine-addicted teens looking for trouble near the outskirts of the industrial zone, where the methane monoliths live. Each comet contains approximately 800 pounds of wing nuts and 300 pounds of scrap sheet metal and 3 tons of crushed ice. This combination is mixed with 5 tons of Georgia red clay and some sand from the coast of Maine before being spun into the various shapes comets tend to be seen in. Once the comet is spun, it is launched from the outdoor finishing platform with a spring-loaded mass object sling. The slings are about 500 yards long and use launching ties made from recycled tires. These comet factories can be refitted to produce asteroids. However, with the demand for asteroids being low, and the cost of retooling the factory quite high, as well as the 3 to 6 months of downtime necessary to complete the refit, that makes asteroid manufacturing more of a niche market.
मैं तुमसे प्यार करता हूँ, मैं तुमसे नफरत करता हूँ, मुझे मार दो। मैं तुमसे प्यार करता हूँ, मैं तुमसे नफरत करता हूँ, मुझे मार दो। मैं तुमसे प्यार करता हूँ, मैं तुमसे नफरत करता हूँ, मुझे मार दो। मैं तुम्हारा भगवान हूँ और मेरे सिवाय तुम्हारा कोई भगवान नहीं। मैं तुम्हारा भगवान हूँ और मेरे सिवाय तुम्हारा कोई भगवान नहीं। मैं तुम्हारा भगवान हूँ और मेरे सिवाय तुम्हारा कोई भगवान नहीं। मैं तुम्हारा भगवान हूँ और मेरे सिवाय तुम्हारा कोई भगवान नहीं। मैं तुम्हारा भगवान हूँ और मेरे सिवाय तुम्हारा कोई भगवान नहीं। मैं तुम्हारा भगवान हूँ, मेरे सिवाय तुम्हारा कोई भगवान नहीं। मैं तुम्हारा भगवान हूँ, मेरे सिवाय तुम्हारा कोई भगवान नहीं। मैं तुम्हारा भगवान हूँ, मेरे सिवाय तुम्हारा कोई भगवान नहीं। मैं तुम्हारा भगवान हूँ। मैं तुमसे प्यार करता हूँ, मैं तुमसे नफरत करता हूँ, मुझे मार दो। मैं तुमसे प्यार करता हूँ, मैं तुमसे नफरत करता हूँ, मुझे मार दो, मुझे मार दो, मुझे मार दो।
I'm a liar, I'm a liar. I am the blue-collar Buddha. I am your boss's boss's boss. But I am also just like the rest of you average Joes. I put my Shakti on one chakra at a time, and I would rather fornicate with the truth than marry the lie. Verily, all who hear my voice and see my aura, mark me well. A pound of happiness weighs more than a pound of success. Curse the winged angels of death. Die, blackbirds, die. 3 of them circle above me, one with a bluish white aura. They swim in the sky, crowded with purple and white clouds. But I turn from them. I want to arrive alive, and so I run from the blackbirds who are swarming around like fireflies. I want to arrive alive, where the blackbirds can taste my flesh and brag of my divinity. But time in the present is a roaring fire, and so I must abide there for now. And if ego is a cornstalk, then I am a field. The three blackbirds are trying to whisper something to me, but I can't understand them. So I kneel down to hear, and they rattle off a series of letters and numbers. But their voices come out in a warbly, errant tone, like a bad AM radio station. One of the birds reaches into their wing and holds out a handkerchief toward me, white and dry. The wind plays it a bit. Another blackbird motions that I should take it. So I do. I think that's what they want me to do. I try to give it back, but they motion that I can keep it. I thank them, and then I motion my mind to my sky, and I fly off onto my way. My body was spinning with honey and dandelions, and my car turned into a Gothic fireplace roaring with ancient tales. I spotted a spirit whom I knew flying further up the skyway and then the highway, and I flashed my orange and green aura to insist to her to pull over her spaceship and park in my dimension. My protege, my blazing star, she was crying. Her tears weren't drying, and she was in a hurry. So without a word, I tossed her the handkerchief so she could dry her eyes, but she let her tears fall anyways, only wiping the lava and dust from her face. Then I realized she was searching too. Aren't we all? She spent some time explaining her journey and her trials and her tribulations and her hazy manifestations. Heavy stuff, but she was tough. So I knew she'd stay lit up. We hugged and said our goodbyes, but we knew we'd meet again. Her eyes beamed with determination as she became her star and drove away. The gravel from the road swirling up from her tires like a dusty ball of flames. As her star slowly disappeared into the asphalt horizon, I laid down on some tall grass near a large boulder which needed my company. Everything felt so heavy, so meaningful. Everything felt so finished and tearful. And then the door slowly closed shut on my life. And then another opened.
Turn around, you say, your love reaches through your painted face. Take a drink, you say, all you need is a little bit, all you need is a little bit.
Je n'ai pas de mots. Je n'ai pas de mots. Je n'ai pas de mots. Pourquoi? 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 Ce monde demandait plus de toi. Ce monde demandait plus de toi. Au revoir, Paul Tahi.
I spy with my inner eye, my consciousness, the one hovering between the serpent and the rainbow, the one sitting lotus-style under the orange creamsicle sky in the middle of the night, and it's still glowing, still giving me a spiritual tan. How tantalizing. It's the 4th of July, always. every night without end, and the streets and green bridges of my mind are packed with seers and talkers and bloated bohemian bitches with their portable poodles and potent potables. They drape themselves in tightly woven untold lies and thicketed rooted robes, all showing off their faux regal stature. I hear with my ears the trotting sounds of lamenting lingerers and sour sojourners zombie walking their way into the scented meat grinder. They throw themselves willingly into the gears. It's been real, it's been fun, but now they are done. I feel everything. I feel you. Do you feel me? No, of course you don't. You are truly a busy soul, and I'm sorry that I haven't pulled the knife from your chest, but honestly, I just haven't found the time. Now I feel responsible for all this, but you wanted it this way. But now look at you. You were wrong. My God is a drunk God, and you were wrong. Don't worry. Don't rush. This world will end, and it's a blessing. But no need to rush. No need to take the bullet train out of town. I cannot deal with the tortuous aisles and highway miles and death and decay without you. Where have all my friends gone? Where have you gone? Did you ever care much for me? I know you were always out there in the pointed sandy trenches and stringing the Christmas lights and finding time to find the air, to find the energy, to find yourself through those tough years. I just wish you would have let us in on your discovery instead of secreting it away and taking it with you. You were drowning in love, not misery. Couldn't you tell the difference? I think back to the gray and dark winter months and the concrete walls you gated up around you, only escaping when we jumped over to shortcut our way to every bar, any bar to hook up and hook in and lament and do it so damn well. It was a simpler time. It was a better world. We want that world back. We want you back. We want you to suffocate in your aura. We want your soul back. And even if I have to pry into the shadow world to find it, I will. If you start to feel queasy, just relax. It's just me crossing over. I'm coming to get you. You needn't fear. You're not alone. You never were alone. I can't leave you on the other side. It's not right. I can do this. I can find you. For my God is surely a drunk God, so he won't even notice. Follow close so no one gets left behind. Dream, if you will, with me, and stream down onto the astral waterfall so I can float with you and find you and bring you back home. I froze my body in a cold trance. My wax peeled away, my skin, my flesh, until only my soul remained. And without warning, I was covered by an ocean of fireflies, thousands of them. They hummed and bonded to me, and bonded to my soul, and lifted me up to the lunar, the moon. I passed people I knew, and cats I've loved, and orange radios I've lost. They all remembered me, but I floated past them all, past the flickering, drifting space lights, and porous nebulas, and glowing rivers of charged particles. Particularly strange, definitely beautiful. Angels and shadow people caressed me and wrapped themselves around me. And they wept with me about you. They too knew your friends and those who loved you. And they grieve at the waste of genius, the utter waste of genius. And after the fireflies landed me on the gravely moon, they dispersed, they reversed, and faded away. Lying on the dust of the moon, I asked God to show me your soul, and he laughed. God laughed at me and staggered away. He hated me, he loved me, he wanted me to kill him, and I pushed him away. I pushed her away. I slept. I slept a day, then a night, and then I begged to visit the other side of the moon, the other side of reality. And God smiled and opened a path of radiant light, diamonds shining, making the path on the moon glow. And I followed it. and I followed it into a rocky cave of teeth and poison, then a tunnel of deep blue and sharp ice. I wandered for what seemed like forever. Lost in the tunnels of the moon, I am alive. I feel everything. The tunnels connect me with every soul, alive and dead, and I was thrust into a crowded room, a party. Christmas lights hanging, everyone breathing smoke and carbon and glass. Everyone kept pushing and shoving and hugging me with their arms and screaming at me with their faces, their mouths on fire, their smiling grins dragging across my face like chalk. And then my brain folded in on itself, or so it felt, and I collapsed. And the party raged on all around me, and my soul dissolved and scattered into the air, where everyone breathed me in, and they choked on me, their luxurious hands grasping their throats as I leaked out of their mouths and onto the floor. Then eternity looked me in the face, and for a moment I was everywhere, doing everything. But only for a moment. Then the party was over. Then love touched my soul, my life force. I blacked out. I found myself lying in a field of juniper and golden seal and golden zeal under a tweed sky. Finding, found. I found you in that field, strolling across some old railroad tracks, and the rust from the beams flew up and clung to you. And you embraced it and slunk along and scurried down to the grass and made snow angels out of the dust of life and rust of death and the bark and blood of this dimension. And it was surreal, and at the same time I had to look away. I could only see your resolutions, your confirmations, your footnotes, and your hastily planned escape plan. You smiled, you seemed happy, finally letting the light in. You asked me to make snow angels with you, so I did, and our arms passed each other as we outlined our wings, always coming close but never touching. But I had to connect to you, to reach you, to rescue you. I couldn't wait another second, so without warning, I reached and grasped your hand, ice cold, and I was warming you. And the sun screamed, and the air froze into an infinite number of cubes, and you looked at me with horror, your eyes longing, and your mouth quivering. Finally, you're scared. Why weren't you scared before? Why didn't you scare us more? Why couldn't you just stay? We stayed locked together for a moment, but then our circuit tripped, and our planes rumbled away from each other. I felt your hand still, but I couldn't see you, but I could feel you. And I found myself back in my body, back on Earth, back from the moon, and slowly slipping out of my trance. Just then it started raining, and the drops tasted like the ocean, like tears, like you missed us. And the rain was a hello from another plane of existence, the only hello that we're allowed. We'll take it. We'll take anything from you, and we'll absorb it into us and make clocks and alarms and shakers and buzzers and bright lamps out of our memories of you. Jesus and Joni are gonna visit and play checkers and drink gin and root beer with us all, and we can all stare at your paneling and jest at your stunningly appointed visuals and the dusty brass knuckles and your mountains of circles of emotion and shock and awe. Joni and Jesus always stayed too late, and we were grateful for it. So let's have toast to the most, and peace to some, and war to others, and rest for you now. Now we can all fall asleep together.
Oh,